Adaptive clinical trial design is getting a lot of attention lately, especially with the new ICH E20 guidance. To level set, how would you explain adaptive trial design to someone new to the concept?
Dave, at its core, an adaptive clinical trial design is a trial that allows pre-planned modifications of certain aspects of a study based on interim data, while maintaining the trial's validity and integrity. These adaptations are specified upfront in the protocol and statistical analysis plan.
So it's not about changing the rules mid-game, it's about defining flexibility before the trial even starts.
Exactly. ICH E20 emphasizes that adaptations must be prospectively planned, well justified, and operationally controlled.
So from a data management perspective, flexibility sounds attractive, but also complex. What are the main goals sponsors are trying to achieve with adaptive designs?
That's a great question, Dave. The main goals are efficiency and informed decision making. Adaptive designs aim to use resources more efficiently, potentially reducing sample size or trial duration, improve decision making during development, and increase the probability of success.
So what are some types of adaptive designs sponsors are actually using today?
Common adaptations fall into a few key categories. Treatment-related adaptations include dropping ineffective arms, adding new treatment arms, or modifying dose levels within a treatment arm. Design adaptations include sample size re-estimation, group sequential stopping for efficacy or futility, and seamless phase 1-2 or 2-3 trial designs. Population or biomarker-driven adaptations include adaptive randomization for population or subgroup selection. Operational adaptations include response adaptive randomization for allocation probabilities.
I've heard about master protocols. How do they play a factor into this?
Master protocols provide frameworks to evaluate multiple hypotheses within a single study. They rely heavily on adaptive principles, but apply them at a program level rather than a single comparison. ICH E20 explicitly recognizes master protocols as a structured and efficient application of adaptive design methodology.
Can you briefly explain the different types, basket, umbrella, and multi-arm, multi-stage?
Sure, these serve different purposes. Basket trials evaluate a single treatment across multiple diseases or tumor types. Here, adaptations also involve expanding promising indications or discontinuing non-responding cohorts. Umbrella trials evaluate multiple treatments within a single disease. Multi-arm, multi-stage, MAMS, those trials evaluate multiple treatments against a common control and include multiple interim analyses. Both umbrella and MAMS trial designs may include dropping ineffective treatments or adding new therapies.
Sample size re-estimation is a strategy we hear a lot about. How does that one work?
Well, SSR allows adjustment of the planned sample size based on interim estimates, either adding to the number of patients to be enrolled to provide enough power to find a treatment benefit, or reducing enrollment in the cases where treatment may be working better than we expected at the start, thus reducing patient risks.
In terms of group sequential designs, interim analyses, and early stopping rules for futility, one concept that often comes up is alpha spending. How does that fit into adaptive design?
Good question, Dave. Alpha spending approaches like O'Brien, Fleming, and Pocock allow us to do interim analyses while still controlling the overall type 1 error rate.
So from a CDM operational perspective, these complex adaptive designs raise concerns.
Correct. Trial integrity is essential. Strong firewalls and restricted access to unblinded data or results are critical for regulatory scrutiny.
That's the importance of DMC reviews of unblinded interim data and their independent recommendations. Adaptive trials often require interim analyses on tight timelines. From a data management standpoint, interim soft locks can be challenging. What are the statistical expectations around data readiness at these points?
Well, from a statistical perspective, interim decisions are only as reliable as the data they're based on. We don't always need a full hard lock, but we do need clearly defined data cut rules. critical variable and consistency checks, and an understanding of residual data risk.
And that's where the complexity comes in. With adaptive designs, especially multi-arm, multi-stage trials, we may be cleaning data for selected endpoints, visits, or populations rather than the entire database. This selective or focused cleaning requires very clear priorities, planning, custom programming, support, and documentation.
Exactly. ICH E20 acknowledges that interim analyses often rely on partial or evolving data sets, but it stresses the importance of predefining which data are considered critical for adaptation decisions.
Another challenge is that ongoing data entry and query resolution continue after an interim soft lock. We must manage database snapshots, versioning, and traceability so that interim data sets can be fully reconstructed later if needed.
And from the regulatory perspective, that traceability is crucial. Regulators may ask how interim data differed from the final lock data and whether those differences could have influenced adaptation decisions.
There's also operational pressure. Data management teams must balance speed with quality, often accelerating cleaning cycles, increasing data review frequency, and coordinating closely with sites to meet those interim timelines.
Yes, that's right. And that reinforces the need for early cross-functional planning. Adaptive design shift much of the workload up front. Clear interim data standards, predefined soft lock procedures, and strong SOPs and work instructions around data changes.
Given all this complexity, regulatory engagement becomes even more important in adaptive trials. What does an effective regulatory strategy look like?
Regulators focus on pre-specification, bias control, transparency, and simulation evidence. Early and proactive engagement is critical. Sponsors should seek early FDA and EMA advice on the proposed adaptation types, estimates, and the overall simulation plan to ensure alignment before the trial starts.
And that engagement needs to be backed by documentation that's Part 11 compliant.
Absolutely. Regulators expect transparency. The SAP detailed simulation report and an integrity plan as outlined in ICH E20 covering blinding, interim access controls, and data handling should be included in regulatory submission packages or provided during scientific advisory meetings.
I see, and that upfront clarity helps reduce downstream risk, especially when adaptations are triggered based on interim results.
Adaptive designs with interim analyses allow trials to adjust, which can substantially reduce development time and cost by the ability to make earlier go, no-go decisions. This could mean potentially shorter trials through early stopping for efficacy or futility, reduce sample sizes by reallocating resources away from ineffective arms, and fewer separate trials from combining learning and confirmation phases. In other words, seamless phase 2-3. This efficiency is especially valuable in oncology and rare diseases.
It sounds like there are some ethical and other benefits like limiting patient exposure to inferior treatments by dropping futile arms early, allocating more patients to better performing treatments, or stopping early when strong benefit or lack of benefit is clear.
Yes, adaptation designs offer flexibility, but that flexibility comes with real risk, operational bias, data quality dependence, and increased regulatory scrutiny. The complexity means that many operational and regulatory challenges. Thus, adaptive trials require substantially more planning before the first patient is enrolled. Adaptation rules, interim timing, decision criteria, estimates, and operational controls all must be fully specified up front.
Yes, and from the CDM perspective, we need the additional complexity of independent DMCs, strong firewalls, and restricted unblinded access.
Adaptive designs are powerful tools when properly planned and implemented by maintaining type 1 error control, pre-specifying estimates, and increasing regulatory acceptability by following regulatory guidelines like ICH E20. The real advantage of adaptive designs is disciplined flexibility. When planned correctly, they let us learn faster, treat patients more ethically, and make better decisions without compromising statistical or regulatory rigor.
Thanks, Bob. And when teams align early across operations like we do here at NDS, adaptive trials deliver better science and outcomes.